Welcome to Odd Shaped Balls, a weekly look at all things rugby and NFL. So we're going to start with the NFL this week because it's been a pretty wild off-season thus far. And there's a bit more drama in Cleveland. So Baker Mayfield's been told he will not play for the team. They definitely want him out, but they refuse to let him leave the building until a bit more cash has been ponied up.
So, they couldn't have handled this whole situation worse, could they?
Nope.
Because, you were saying, because Deshaun Jackson is going to have a ban, why wouldn't they keep hold of him to play in his absence? But we also hypothesized about how weird and awkward that would be. So they bring in Brissett. And now, how do you feel if you're another member of the Cleveland Browns? Because they've now got the most expensive player in NFL history and two other quarterbacks, and yet they have the second most salary cap available out of the whole of the NFL. So they are paying three quarterbacks record amount of money. They must be paying the rest. Is everybody else on paper round money?
Yeah, pretty much. I think you get like a bowl of chili at the end of the game. It's like playing minis rugby. You just, there you go, there's your hot dog and your sausage off your pop. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think that, especially at a team where you think, if they gave Deshaun Watson a few interesting weapons, that could be a really interesting team next year. I guess not.
I mean, look, we all, if the accusations are correct, it's abhorrent, and if he's innocent, we all want to see him play again. But it's not our place to prove one way or the other. We need to let due course, with the accusations, because how can we judge the situation? Well, we don't know that, but the way it's being handled now, they're talking about that are never, and then they may give Baker Mayfield to another team, and then give the other team draft picks to take his salary, which is just ridiculous.
I mean, if you're Baker Mayfield, right? If he ever recovers from this psychologically, fair play to him. Because you've not only been told that we'd rather take a punt on Deshaun Watson, which, as we just said, the thing's hanging over that guy's head, and we'd rather have him in our locker room than you. And then also, like you say, the team's basically paying another team to give you away. I mean, if you recover
as the number one overall pick,
you're getting into like not Ryan Leaf territory. You're certainly getting into like. In fact, that whole, what's so funny? That whole draft class was so hyped up, wasn't it? Because it was Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Was Patrick Mahomes in that group? Or was he the year before, year after? I thought it was Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky as well, maybe in that same year.
No, they were the year before. They were both the year before.
Goff was the other one. So maybe it was Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Goff.
No, Goff was the same year as Wentz.
So year before them, right?
Goff and Wentz were the year after.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes and Trubisky were the year before.
So either way, I think it's interesting that those 3 or 4 years, I think, were talked about as like really high-end quarterback draft classes, like elite level draft classes. And there's only like 1 out of 5 that's even still a starter.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes went quite far down the middle order as well, didn't he?
Well, famously, he could have gone to Chicago, and he could have gone to somebody else before Kansas City. Chicago's a big one. Matt Nagy actively passed on Patrick Mahomes to take Mitchell Trubisky.
Not only passed, but absolutely gave away shitloads of picks to get Mitchell Trubisky.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like it's crazy how no other team, it seems, although to be honest, the one position, this is what's interesting, right, about the Patriots, because I think the Patriots for 20 years, them and Pittsburgh had consistently the best drafting process. They didn't pick the best players, they picked the best players for their team, their system, what they needed. And were quite You're sorry?
Baltimore's been pretty good at
Yeah,
drafting.
Ravens. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's say those three been pretty solid. Patriots obviously had the most success, but the one position none of those teams had to draft except the Ravens towards the end was quarterback. Like Bill Belichick never had to draft a quarterback to replace Tom Brady in that whole run, and he didn't really. I mean, they sort of scouted Tom Brady, took him on. They didn't like they weren't excited about him, high on him, and Tomlin,
by definition, you're not excited about them if they take them at 199.
Exactly, 100%. So I think it's interesting that even the best, let's just take Pittsburgh and Patriots out there by themselves. Even the two best teams when it comes to drafting never had to contend with we're going to draft a quarterback and get that decision right in the last 20 years. It's virtually impossible.
Well, you know that no one's done it very well because we keep on talking about every draft prospect as the best since Andrew Luck. Evidently, none of them were because we would change the saying.
Yeah. It's a great point. Yeah, if you're still going back 10, 12 years to a draft pick, it'd be like, like if you're like a musician, he's the best guitarist since Paul McCartney. Like, well, shouldn't there have been a few in the middle, in between that?
Paul McCartney played the guitar? I thought he played the recorder.
Yeah, it was that or one of those Bop It kits. Was it one of those Bop It kits? That'd have been fun. I'd like to have seen the Beatles incorporate something like that into their recording sessions. Like if they'd have gone on too long and they'd gone into like the 80s prog rock phase, and it's like a synth. Can you imagine like John Lennon with a synth, xylophone?
Anything to stop them talking.
Yeah, John Lennon was the prototype for the annoying Hollywood influencer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
no wonder he would stop.
Exactly, and we'd all like to do that to them. Like, because if you've ever seen that photograph of like they're doing the whole give peace a chance war protest thing, and like the maids making up the bed for them, and it's like this whole big protest about anti-capitalism and how we need to like bring down the man, and then there's like room service, and it just like, if it was taken today, they'd be on their phones scrolling, checking the likes on their anti-capitalism protests.
So where do you reckon Baker Mayfield will go, and for what?
Well, there's a little rumor that he might go to Pittsburgh. That was a little rumor. Yeah.
I'd like that back. Would they trade within the division?
Well, usually if you trade within the division, that tells you how low or how like little regard they hold the player in.
Yeah.
If they're like, yeah, sure, he's not a big threat, he's not a big whatever, yeah, take him. I think Baker Mayfield's either going to land somewhere really dysfunctional, like Jacksonville or
Jacksonville don't cross back.
No, but somewhere like with a fucking ridiculous culture, similar to the Browns. Like if like you could see an AFC East team taking him, you could see an NFC East team taking him, or he's going to go to a team with a brilliant culture who thinks this lad just needs a bit of guidance and a bit of support.
So your prediction is he's going to go somewhere with a bad culture or somewhere with a good culture? Thank God you're here.
Yeah, I know. Really adding value. I think it has to be one of those two extremes, though. He won't go to like a team that's like trying to be good. Like he wouldn't have gone if Russell Wilson hadn't gone to the Broncos. He wouldn't have gone to the Broncos.
Right. I mean, the most obvious one is Seattle, but I love the idea of him going to Pittsburgh.
I like the idea of him going to Pittsburgh and having a horrendous couple of seasons, and then he never plays again. Baker Mayfield also strikes me as one of those guys who he's either one bad season away from a meth problem, or from a giant TV contract.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I could see either in his future.
I'm rooting for him. I want to see it come back. I want to see him. It'd be great to see him play for Pittsburgh and have to play the Browns twice a year and fucking humble them. It would be brilliant.
if all that was missing was a really, really strong coach to tell him what to do. Like
strong, sexy coach.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin for you is my Italian under 20s. This is the vision board which I've pinned up.
In the most heterosexual way possible, I was thinking, I wondered if my main problem with Owen Farrell is he's repulsively ugly.
Yeah, he's got he looks like he's wearing a crash helmet all the time.
Wow.
The thing is, his head looks oversized.
But not everybody can be as angelically beautiful as Finn Russell.
That is true. Although he's sort of like a council estate angel. You don't think? He's got a bit of that, like, all right, Paul, you have 2 pints of tenants out the back of the fucking cloud we're on, mate, you know. You got any skag in heaven, mate, you know.
Do you think the Giants have given up on Daniel Jones but are just letting this season roll out because they don't want either of the 2 quarterbacks in this year's draft?
Yeah, I do. I think, speaking of how tricky quarterback drafting is, I think that front office and that ownership group is so gun shy now, because since the Coughlin era, they've just made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. Truly awful. But they don't suffer for it the way small market teams do, because they are the New York Giants. They're always going to have huge corporate interest in sponsoring the team, brand deals, fucking bankers who want tickets, you know? So they're not under the same pressure that some other teams are to get these things right. But I agree with you 100%. I think they're just like, until it's the second coming of Peyton Manning, or until it's like an absolute gold star recruit, we're a bit reticent to dive in. And this year's draft class certainly doesn't seem to be the one where you would roll the dice on a quarterback.
But, I mean, because they've got Atlanta just behind them in the draft, anybody who wants to have a quarterback is going to be desperate to trade above Atlanta, because Atlanta are almost definitely going to draft a quarterback. Yeah. So even though people say that this is a quarterback weak draft, they're still going to go 2 in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and there's a chance that one of them goes at number 2 to Detroit. Detroit aren't, bought in on Goff, and they bring in one of these 2 guys, because I watched a bit of their pro days, and not that I know what I'm looking at, but they look like NFL quarterbacks to me. I didn't see anything in the tape that I've seen of them that made me think they were any less of a player than Daniel Jones, for instance, or a Carson Wentz, or a Daniel Goff. Who's Daniel Goff?
The amalgamation of 2 really shit quarterbacks to become a Frankenstein-y shit quarterback. Very tall, very white, very inaccurate.
But those two guys, regardless of people saying next week, are going to go in the top 10. And I think we can put money on Atlanta wanting one of them, because they're completely quarterbackless now. So I would imagine if a Pittsburgh or a Carolina want one of these 2 guys, or even a Seattle. So depending on who Baker Mayfield goes to, because Seattle and Pittsburgh are the 2 bookies' favorite for where he lands. Mm-hmm. So if he goes to one of them, then the other one's going to want. So one of those 4 teams may cough up a big haul of picks to get the Giants' top draft pick. And also, there's a chance apparently that, again, I'm just repeating what other people think, as I don't watch college football, but the Giants obviously want an offensive lineman, but there's a chance that they could go in the top 5 before they get to the Giants, in which case...
I think if that happens, that's when the Giants will trade down, I think. I think if they don't get the offensive lineman they want, I think they'll think it's better. We're better off trading down and getting a few more pieces in the middle of their second and third round.
Yeah.
Than just taking some in the first round just for the sake of it that we don't need necessarily. Yeah, it's a tricky one because they
need everything. So best player available could never be more appropriate because there isn't a single position that the Giants are sorted apart from running back,
which is great because we're apparently going to be playing in the league in 2001. So I'm glad we have a franchise running back in 2022. That's
and look, he is fit 1 in 8 games, so
it is. Yeah, so be grateful. So and I don't know if you've seen his squats. They're very impressive squats.
Oh, they are very impressive.
Yeah, he did.
There's very, very, very rare that I have thigh envy.
Saquon Barkley will give anyone thigh envy for sure. Have you seen? Him and Baker Mayfield actually did fucking well getting onto that. A couple of years ago, the NFL made that 100 years of the NFL ad.
Oh yeah,
2 seasons ago, and Saquon Barkley and Baker Mayfield got in the ad. I was like, that is you've done very well there, boys.
Yeah.
Well. You're in there with like Barry Sanders and Tom Brady and Jerry Rice and you two chances.
Dan Marino.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley is going to be running a local Toyota dealership in 2 years. He is. He's going to be like living.
Such a waste of his. The Giants have not only was that a bad pick for the New York Giants, but it was a terrible pick for Barkley. I mean, he could have gone to if he'd fallen a couple more places, but the Giants had actually picked somebody that they needed, like the fucking right tackle or whatever, then he could have fallen to a team and had a glorious career. But he's been absolutely wasted by Big Blue.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if you'd have gone and if, like you say, if you'd have ended up at like a Seattle or Baltimore or even like LA Chargers. Look at the career Melvin Gordon had, or a couple of years Melvin Gordon's had.
I hope the Giants do trade back because having 2 picks next year would be very advantageous if they decide to move on from Daniel Jones, which I think they probably have already decided to move on from Daniel Jones. So having 2 picks. So in that case, we don't really want to trade with Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh will do well. So that first round pick won't be that high. It will be, at best a 15th or 16th, pick. You want to do the trade with a team that's going to be horseshit. Step forward, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, step forward, the Carolina
Panthers. Because they can get their new college guy. It'll be Rule's Matt Rule's last throw of the dice to keep his job. It'll put everything on that young buck's shoulders. A quarterback that everybody was saying wasn't a franchise quarterback beforehand, but due to market pressures, he ends up going in the top 5.
Yeah,
Matt Rule puts his entire career on that poor boy's shoulders, and it all folds in on itself. And then the Giants get another top 3 pick in return, and then we can actually pick the quarterback we want. Yeah. There we go. Solve the problem.
Solved it. You seem to get a letter off to the Mara family ASAP. This is it. We need to ruin 2 men's lives in a different state, and then we march on. Do you reckon coming out of college, being a quarterback in the NFL is the most high pressure thing in sport?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Can't think of anything else. Either that or being Owen Farrell's makeup artist. But other than that, I mean, it's got to be like you're 22, 23, and you're basically being asked to be the CEO of a company, or like in the world of business, it'd be like going, like, right, you're just fresh out of university, like you're a managing director now. That's it. You're in charge of like Everyone's jobs are
There's
linked.
no other position. There's no other position like quarterback in it, and the fact that you're thrown straight in to be a starter 9 times out of 10 rather than understudied for a year or two and learn. I mean, everybody always cites the Aaron Rodgers and the Patrick Mahomes learning at the knee of another quarterback, but they cite those two because it's so rare. You normally put the guy straight in, and then you have a car crash.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing how quickly they deteriorate. You know, from RG3 to Carson Wentz, how somebody who was considered in their first year, the second coming, can just drop out of nothing. You know,
I remember the one I felt most sorry for was Sam Darnold, because I remember watching a Monday night game when he was still on the Jets playing the Patriots, and Bill Belichick. You know, Bill Belichick's usually very cagey about everything. Like during the week, he was like, we're going to throw some different looks at this kid and he's not going to know what's going on. And you're like, oh shit, if Bill's like that. And then they did. And he was mic'd up and he came to the sidelines and just went, he was panicking. Just went, I'm seeing ghosts. I'm seeing ghosts. I don't know where they're coming from, man. I don't know that. And he looked visibly, and they cut to a commercial break because he was basically having a meltdown, like while he was mic'd up. And it was like being in that moment in the playground, like where you've been like giving out some shit to somebody. Then they start crying, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't want you to. Oh no, I didn't mean for you to. I didn't want that. I just thought your coat was weird."
Yeah, obviously I don't know Sam Darnold. I've never met him, never been in, in his vicinity in the slightest. But he did feel like just a boy who was not ready for that type of role. I'm sure if he'd been not with any disrespect to our other beloved sport of rugby, if he was just graduating onto the seniors of a professional rugby side, I'm sure he would have had a couple of years where he's learning the ropes and then come forward. But to take the helm of an NFL side as a quarterback, you have to. I mean, that was what everybody, that's why people go on about the fact that Fitch Magic went to Harvard, but clever quarterbacks hang around. Tom Brady has never had any particular athletic talent, but he's the most decorated quarterback of all time. The Mannings had very little athletic talent, but they're the smarter students of the game, and also the less emotional, the slight. One bans around terms like psychopath or retard, but
and Eli Manning was somehow both. he was that winning combo.
Being all too human, I think, really inhibits you. If you have the natural sensitivities of a 21-year, female comedian played Ross's girlfriend in the last season of Friends. Now is on The Voice and does voices for
I know you mean.
The Horse Jackman. I really want to see Alicia Keys. It's not Alicia Keys.
It's going out of my head. Hang on.
But she used to say, if anybody starts playing a guitar on Hard Knocks, they're going to be dropped in the next round.
Yeah.
Anybody who's got feelings, anybody who cries over a letter, they're like, oh, they'll be dead.
Yeah. Oh, it's not Andy Haynes. God, what's the name? So that's really annoying me. Yeah, exactly. Anyone who shows any emotion ever, it's not the environment. It's not that environment where, which is odd, because you need to have an emotional intensity, like a commitment to what you're doing, which is a different type of thing, I guess. But yeah, you can't have self-reflection. Maybe it's like self-reflection more than it's like the same trait that apparently they reckon is what like bankers and stock traders have. Because I always thought this, I was like, I've got mates who are like traders, and they got like 2.2s at university, or like did like fucking PE at uni.
They're not deep thinkers, are they?
No,
they're people.
And then I remember like
being a deep thinker probably gets in the way in most things in life.
Almost, yeah, exactly. Probably like creativity is probably like the one exception. But even then, we know loads of people who like are prepared to just like bullishly march themselves forward.
It's a controversial statement to make, but I see a lot of comics sell very simple ideas, but because they sell them particularly well because they think they're great ideas, and often the comic that thinks too deeply about something will throw away that idea without thinking, because they think they see it for a simple idea. But sometimes it's just better to go out there without the self-criticism, without the judgment, and just go and knock a simple knock joke out of the park.
Oh yeah.
And the audience will receive in kind. But if you're constantly looking at what's in your notebook and thinking it's not good enough, and you're constantly hunting for the holy grail of something more meaningful, more interesting, you forget the fact that you're just telling jokes for a living and just need to say belly button in a funny accent.
Yeah. Choose a hard consonant, that'll work. Yeah, I definitely had one of those at the weekend. Definitely, was trying some new stuff, and it was probably more common social commentary based. Nothing about like cancel culture or politics or anything like that. It was just about it was about the hair stuff.
Right.
And you could definitely see the audience was like, yeah, no, I'm interested. Like I almost like I'm interested to the point where I'm more interested in this. I'm more interested in your perspective than I am in the jokes. Does that make sense? Well, like everyone's like smiling.
It's difficult to do both. That's what I mean. Even Bill Hicks would he would do some social commentary and it wouldn't get much of a reaction, and he would use the catchphrase, "Don't worry, there's a dick joke coming along in a minute." Yeah. You've got to eat your greens of social commentary before you can have a dick joke for dessert.
Yeah.
So, even he would do his bits that were meaningful, but they didn't get as big a laugh. And then he'd do something a bit cheap and it got a big laugh. The holy grail is something that seems to be, something that you stand by and you think that was insightful and it got a huge laugh. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people have to slice the two together.
Yeah.
It's a bit heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is sometimes. I guess like it's similar in sport, I guess, in that there's the idea of how you want to play a game, whether it's rugby or the NFL. Like, someone like Bill Walsh has like a philosophy of like how he see how the game should have been delivered and how beautiful it should be. Like he called it ballet, didn't he? He was like, he loved Joe Montana because he moved like a ballerina. And then there's like just winning, just like getting points on the board, squeezing teams, which let's call it the Owen Farrell way of approaching.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same. The Owen Farrell, Tom Brady's who are not exciting to watch. They don't make it an interesting game, but their percentages and their winning is stifled. Did you see the tackle he made against Bristol at the weekend?
Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
It's an absolute joke. He went in vertical, just like Charlie Earls did when he got sent off in the second minute of the England game.
Yeah.
Went in vertical, his shoulder makes direct contact with the Bristol player's head, and he doesn't use his arms. They call it back. The TMO sees it, tells the ref to stop the game, and the ref shits his pants because it's Owen Farrell and goes, "I just need to see you do the arms." Yeah, you need to see the arms, and if he doesn't do it, he gets sent off. They're the rules.
Yeah.
They are the fucking rules.
And also, like, selfishly, as an England fan, you want him to get sent off because, like, if that happens in a world, whatever we say about Owen Farrell, he's a valuable member of the England team or England setup. So, like, if he does that in a World Cup quarterfinal or group game, that's it. He's missing. Or if he does it in the first round of the Six Nations, he's missing all Six Nations.
Yeah.
Like, it's just.
I don't know who he's got photos of.
Yeah.
He's got photos of like a member of the board of the RFU fucking a goat or something.
I think everyone's got those photos. I think you get given those when you play for England. That's like, well, that's in your welcome pack. This is me. This is the wife. This is the goat.
Unbelievable. I
Yeah.
just could not believe, and it was even the way that the ref said it, sort of like stroking him. I just need to see you use your arms a bit more, because actually that. I can't stop Owen
That was on my end. I don't know if it's going to show up on the recording, but at my end, during that whole amazing act out, you were frozen in this position. So I really hope that stays that way.
Which was actually the position that the referee was taking during that exchange.
Right. So yeah, I think the key thing to take away from that little chat was Owen Farrell is a vicious little cunt and continues to get away with assault on rugby pitches regardless of the rules.
I don't understand. People go, oh, he's obviously got a target on his back now, and yet he keeps on not being sent off.
Yeah. Well,
or
he's got a target on people's foreheads also.
But I mean, if he would constantly got sent off and everybody went, well, he's got a target on his back because he's the England captain, or he's been held up to a higher scrutiny to anybody else, none of that is true. He constantly tackles without his arms. He constantly tackles without bending at the waist, and he's never sent off for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he did if a South African Australian player did what he did in that autumn series 3 years ago, whatever it was, consecutive weeks, the English public would be like, there's a bunch of thugs.
That person allowed on the pitch again, action as well. But yeah, we're meant to be protecting people's health. We're meant to be protecting the game of rugby so it can still exist in a generation's time. Yeah. Because if we keep on having players getting dementia at 50, then are you still there?
Yeah.
So just got offered a gig. Just saying yes.
You switched to like a little gnome on my screen, you little screensavery man. Yeah, I agree. Like you're not gonna keep developing the game if people think that the highest profile player in England. Also, as well, it's behavior change is very complicated, right? Game, and the red card is like one instrument. There's a longer term thing about coaching directives, and how do you get coaches to keep asking players to be aggressive without doing things that are no longer legal. But another aspect to it is watching what high profile players do, because the rest of the league or younger players or players coming through are just like subconsciously like, well, if Owen Farrell's doing it, it can't be that serious, or it can't be that meaningful.
Yeah. He just seems to get away with a lot that other players, I mean, both of us are big fans of both Danny Care's playing and his honest commentary off the pitch, and he goes on all the time about the Owen Farrell effect, that everybody ups their game when he's around, and I keep on hearing players that I respect say that, so it must be true, because there's no other reason why this dullard is allowed to not be a particularly exciting player and constantly cheat.
Yeah. What does he bring? Yeah, exactly. He must bring something. What do you reckon's worse for rugby, right? The watching Owen Farrell.
Owen Farrell.
Very good. Would you reckon we might have a close second? So it's either
COVID,
AIDS, Owen Farrell. So would you rather? The answer is always Owen Farrell. It's always Owen Farrell. At least she gets, yeah. So what's worse, rugby? Owen Farrell putting in another no arms headshot, kill shot tackle, or watching yet another second row in space not being able to execute a basic 2-on-1.
Yeah. Is this your reaction to the last minute try or not try?
Not try.
Bristol.
The old double pump jump.
That was so devastating. I mean, it was so blatantly forward. There's no defending it. Wouldn't it have been so great if they stole it in Saracens' big day in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Oh, it would have been delicious.
Yeah,
It would have been stolen away from them.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, they've never. I mean, we now have to use a term that these terms that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. Now everybody's using them, like all court game. I don't remember when I was playing rugby. No one ever referred to all court game because, as far as I remember, we played it on a pitch. But but yeah, now you do have. You got your Johnny Hills doing fucking kicks from his own 25. Locks are far more athletic than they used to be, but it's still not the skills that they're selected on. You know what I mean? They have become a more three-dimensional athlete, running in space, doing kicks, but you don't select a lock on their handling skills.
No, exactly.
And so, yeah, but I mean, it just waits too long to make the pass, doesn't he?
I think
he's too. The winger has no choice but to overtake him because he's coming in at speed, hoping to get the ball at speed so that he's at full speed at the point of catching the ball, so that he'll beat the defender. As it happened, it really wasn't a defender because they had a 2-on-1, but the lock tries to hang on to it for too long. Was he being selfish? Was he trying to do it himself, or did he just mistime it? I don't know.
I think he's got too confident, right? I think his skill level, my argument is, it's not that his skill level's too low, his skill level's too high. So he's one of these front fives who, like, in training, is like, oh, look at ball behind the back, doing all this, I'm amazing. So he's got overly confident in his head, in his big giraffe face, and gone like, I can do the old double pump, because not only am I skillful enough to execute a 2-on-1, I'm so fucking skillful. I can do this in a bit of a NRL, give me like, little show and go. No, you can't, mate. Right. You're a big rhinoceros, like galloping. Yeah. Just do the simple thing. Like Brodie Retallick probably has less skills than that guy, but Brodie Retallick in space is going like, pass.
Yeah.
And probably and they probably score.
It's devastating, heartbreaking for anybody who isn't on the side of the Nazis.
Yeah. Which, for anyone who's never listened before, we firmly established through a decent amount of evidence that Saracens are in fact the modern equivalent of the Nazi Party.
The Third Reich.
The Third Reich, the Fourth Reich. That's what their stars are on their chest. It's not championships won. So we are the 1, 2, 3, Fourth Reich. When I think of second rows, I don't imagine any second row ever speaking words. In my head, second rows just speak in like.
There's always a reaction to whenever specifically a type 5 player comes out as an erudite commentator. Yeah. Or when I always loved I said I loved him and then I can't remember his name, ex-England captain hooker Dylan Hartley. And people were like, I loved him as a player, but people were like, when he came out, he's so sort of humble and self-effacing, and yet relatively erudite.
Yeah.
And it seems to really take people's breath away. What? He can bite people and construct sentences.
Yeah. Like a well-trained dog. Yeah. Like a relatively intelligent parrot.
It's almost seems wrong how erudite Martin Johnson is as well.
Do you reckon it's a difference between if pre-professionalism, where like you had to exist in the real world, so you had to have a basic level of.
Well, both of those players played entirely in the professional era.
Now, Martin Johnson would have been first. Well, he made his debut. Played in the '93 Lions. I think he started playing for Leicester in like 1990 or something. So he'd have had a good 4 or 5 years of non-professionalism.
Oh,
Dylan Hartley, definitely fully professional. But with Martin Johnson, I wonder, like, yeah.
What was his job in his first couple of years? I wonder.
He was at the Midland Bank. Load of Leicester players all worked at the Midland Bank.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was like a strict. Sorry.
Good knowledge.
Oh mate, I was such a Leicester Tigers nose.
So, because you always have this image of amateur rugby players all being fighter pilots or barristers or policemen, but apparently there were some that just were till girls at the local.
Imagine that. Imagine going to the bank and Martin Johnson's this giant human being is like.
I just wanted to have a chat about my credit card rate.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'll leave it.
I'm just gonna leave cash for just a tip. Martin Johnson's the only guy who's robbed a bank unintentionally. So no, I'm just going to get my wages. Take it all. Apparently, him and Neil Back worked in the same bank.
That's hilarious. Neil Back, right? He's one of these sportsmen that went through some sort of transformation where you genuinely think that he might have been possessed by an alien. Because if you look at photos of him in his first incarnation, when he had sort of long shoulder-length blonde hair, and he's quite a pretty boy, and then he goes away, eats 10 kilos of creatine a day, loses his hair, and comes back not only with muscles where everybody else has muscles, but a six-pack on his face. He looks like a different human being.
Yeah, when you say he went away and ate a lot of protein, I think what you meant to say is he went away and injected a lot of Mexican supplements.
Right.
Well, I mean, like at that period in rugby, like no one was testing for shit. Like from 1994, 95, 96, which is like when he started getting really jacked before the 1997 Lions tour.
Right.
In that period in rugby, especially for someone who wasn't on the England scene or in the international setup, like, no, I mean, there was always loads of rumors about players like Jamie Roberts, who even in like sort of late 2010s, I guess, went away to Australia for a medical sabbatical and came back with like, why is your jaw bigger than your chest? How does that work? It's definitely not human growth hormone. I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't human growth hormone. That's what it isn't. And I've got loads of doctor friends who will attest to it. It's definitely what it isn't. So I think Neil Back was a lot of like Leicester courage and even more Mexican supplements. I think it was probably
Mexican.
Yeah. Well, apparently that's where the best roids are.
All right. It's not just a nickname that Finn Russell has for his penis.
The Mexican supplement.
You're ready for your Mexican supplement.
I apologize in advance. It's not really a burrito. It's more of a taco. but it is likely to give you a fiery burn. I'll tell you that.
There will be salt in your eye.
Yeah. Don't worry about the guacamole. It's a disgusting.
Right, well, I think we've covered the league in shit. Anything else?
Last little thing. What did you see Ugo Monye got in a bit of trouble with the RFU?
Yeah. I heard him make a sort of semi apology, but that wasn't an apology, which suggested that he had been somehow.
He called them dishonest. He used the word dishonest to describe the statement they released about England's roundup of their Six Nations.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky one because he works for the RFU in quite a few capacities. But what I found most interesting was why I don't know if you cared very much about the statement the RFU made after the Six Nations. I didn't. It seemed like every other corporate statement any other company would make, like, "Oh, things are going well, not as bad as you think."
Corporation lying to us.
I know. It's like I don't understand why Ugamonyu was so personally invested in the RFU not say. But also, what do you want to say? Yeah, no, it wasn't very good. We'd like to be better than that. Like,
yeah, I mean, the war of words continues. Why do we care what an unsigned letter from the RFU says? And equally, why do we care?
yeah.
And I love Ugamonyu to bits. One of my favorite. I nearly threw my TV when Jeremy Guskett said he wasn't physical enough for a test player. I nearly threw my TV out the window. Jeremy Guskett never made a fucking tackle in his life.
Yeah.
Being an underwater model, for Christ's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I love Ugamonyu to bits, but the idea that his reaction to an unsigned letter should be something of controversy is, I mean, I know here we are talking about it. It's just folding in the nonsense on the nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Danny Kerr had a really good quote this week. He said, like, whoever coaches England, they're making it to the semi-final of the World Cup. That's the truth. So the only difference,
I'm sure they said that before their home the England World Cup at home. They said that as well. They managed to fuck that up, didn't they?
They did. No, that is very true.
But here's the thing. And let's wrap up on this.
Yeah.
The difference between Lancaster's England, where he wouldn't pick anybody he didn't think was a thoroughly good person, so he left out Manu Tuilalangi for questions about his off pitch behaviour. He left out Danny Kerr because of some alcohol related issues and stuff. And he went to the World Cup with a team of thoroughly good chaps, but unfortunately weren't professional rugby players. And then at the other scale, you've got the Cleveland Browns giving the most money ever given to one player ever in the NFL to a man who's got 20 odd outstanding sexual assault claims against him. At what point do you draw the line? Was Lancaster wrong to go to that World Cup without anybody who had a moral stain on their character? And or is, those two extremes probably are both wrong, right?
Yeah. 10 sexual assault claims? No more than 10. It's an even number.
It's good to know where the line is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's probably there. Right, good. Right, well, that's ended my career for the week. That's been another episode of Odd Shaped Balls. Thanks, everyone.